Hello, football faithful, and welcome back to another episode of Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brendan Deek. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you do listen to your podcast. It would also be greatly appreciated. We've got a very cool episode coming for you today to kick things off. We are starting with sports radio personality JD Bunkis for Sportsnet. JD, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. And also, you rocking the Cool Bet hoodie. Also, Cool Bet ambassador, JD Bunkis. That's right.
Yes.
User of Cool Bet. All right.
I was gonna throw that in there. We got some gambling questions your way. I was gonna toss that in. So didn't forget, but appreciate it. Yeah, the hoodie. Swag is nice, you know? It looks good, right?
Swag is nice. I actually love that you and Sports Lettering have very, very different hats. It's like he's got the I rock this Blue Jays hat all the way through the thick and the thin. This is like the chores. Yours looks like it's brand new, right out of the box Toronto Raptors hat. Both love. Both love. Both have similar in terms of me and my and my fits.
So I believe this one I've only worn about 10 times, and Eric, it looks like you played basall in that hat this summer.
Eric,
maybe there's been 10 days I haven't worn this hat. I think that's
it. All righty. Well, JD, why don't we get going here? We're going to start with some Toronto questions, right? We want to get that. I know Super Bowl's coming this weekend, but man, we got to get ready. Like in 8 days from now, we only got Toronto sports left. So we got to start. I got to start preparing myself for that. I want to start with the Raptors question because this one's been, I'm kind of thinking about the last couple of days. Raptors are kind of hot right now. And Scottie Barnes has intrigued me lately because I'm curious to see your opinion on what do you think his ceiling is? How good do you think Scottie Barnes can be in the future? Like, has he got top 10 player potential? Is he just going to be a piece like maybe OG Anunoby is right now? What do you think the ceiling is for that kid?
So he's a really tough ceiling player to define because there's just so much there already. Plus, you just look at the growth from this past college season to where he's at in the NBA, and it's astounding. This guy was a bench player. And yeah, okay, he wasn't the sixth man technically of that team. He wasn't the sixth best player. It wasn't that much of a shock. I think most draft prognosticators had him falling to 5 at the latest, maybe 6. But if you look at the skill set of what he has done so far this year in terms of the comfort with his three-point shooting, the aggressiveness in which he plays on offense, the confidence in which he carries, I think some guys have all the tools and they can't really put it together because they just don't have that it switch, that ability to believe that they're going to be the baddest man on the team. Scottie Barnes plays on a Raptors team that has Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby. And there are times where he just looks those dudes off and barrels his way to the basket and doesn't give, can you swear, any bleeps? Do I swear?
Yeah, no, you can swear. Let it fly. Let it go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he doesn't give a shit. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He looks like he's a veteran out there. So you take his age, his athleticism, the fact that he clearly has touch around the basket with his shooting, right? Like, this isn't some guy who's fluking his way into those nights where he scores over 15 points. The defensive upside and the right culture around him where he's going to have a front office that's going to know how to build around him and a head coach that's going to know how to get the best out of him. I don't know. I always feel uncomfortable saying like top 10 player stuff just because you think about who the 10 best players are in the NBA and you go, okay, well, that's an elite group, but I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that he gets there. And I think that's as high of a compliment as you can pay the guy.
I agree. And this year, the Eastern Conference is just so wide open. I think it's less than 5 games apart between first all the way down to 8th.
Yep.
Do you think it would be a rush if the Raptors made a trade to kind of push for this season? Because I think going into the year, I don't know if the expectations were to compete for the Eastern Conference, but hey, like, it's wide open.
No, I'm with you, man. I've been pushing this for about 2 weeks now. And I'll tell you this. I've been someone who earlier in the year, don't tell anyone, was sneaky okay with losses, let's just say. I was thinking, hey, not your year. Siakam's hurt. They don't really have a bench. They already got rid of Dragic the week into the season. So if you end up in the lottery and maybe you get lucky again, awesome. It's not a particularly strong draft. I do believe that first-round picks mean more to the Raptors than other organizations because they can't sign free agents. And they also have Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, who have a good history of drafting. Like, look at the OG Anunoby pick, the Siakam pick, Fred being undrafted, Barnes being a consensus not in the top 4 guy, Suggs being the dude ahead of him, and they still end up drafting the right guy in Barnes, right? So, yes, do first-round picks matter? Absolutely they do. But if I'm the Raps, I'm 100% offering a first-round pick this year, and I'm even offering a first-round pick in the future if it's the right player like a Miles Turner type. The Raps, the East is wide open. They're not only those like 5 games back or whatever of first place. Who do you think right now they can't beat in the East, right? Like, obviously they can beat the Bulls. Obviously they can beat the Heat. They're right with those teams. We just saw it. The Atlanta Hawks were in the finals last year. The Raps are better than them. They just played them with Trae Young healthy. Siakam's the best player when those two teams play. Where is Siakam right now in terms of this version of him in the landscape of the Eastern Conference's best players? He's certainly in the top 5. Like, you can't put 5 guys playing better than Pascal Siakam is right now. Brooklyn's a fucking tire fire. They have James Harden rumors. They have Kyrie Irving going up to podium saying he's not sure if this guy's invested. And then you got to worry about Kevin Durant coming back from an injury, the guy who last time he came back too soon from an injury, crumpled in front of Toronto fans and gave us our bad reputation of people who boo for injuries. Like Joel Embiid. Okay, guy that the Raptors can't stop. What else around Joel Embiid scares you? Nothing. So the idea that the Raptors could go on a run is really not that outside of the realm of possibility. I don't think that they're title contenders right now. I think they're in the group that's right below it. But yeah, they find a way to make an aggressive deal, like bringing a Miles Turner for a couple future first-round picks and the Dragic deal. Like, they could get something like that done. I don't really know what they are. And so it's not even just about this year either. It's also about next season and being able to do business ahead of time. And I would look at it the same way as Blue Jays fans looked at the Barrios deal, where if you can get the right piece for the right amount of prospect/pick capital and buy yourself a potential run, and who knows, but then also have some work done ahead of next season, that's the model I'm looking at here, is the Raptors need their own Barrios deal.
Yeah, me and Eric were talking before you jumped on. We were saying, I think 2 first-round picks from Miles Turner, we would both do it. We don't think that gets it done, though. I think they probably got to sweeten the deal a little bit. Like, you probably got to throw maybe another couple of future seconds, something like that. But add him into this lineup. They're desperately looking for kind of the big man to kind of shoulder the load down low. And I think that Miles Turner would be the guy. And I think that's definitely a name to watch out for. All right, JD, we got to get to football here. I see that little Russell Wilson picture in the background. I know you're a little Seattle Seahawks fan, and God, he would look good in an Eagles jersey potentially this offseason. What direction do you want the Seattle Seahawks to go this offseason? It looks like Pete Carroll's sticking around. Do you want them to move on from Russell Wilson and kind of start the rebuild, or are you looking for another year with Wilson and Carroll at the helm?
So I wish that Pete wasn't coming back. I'm so over Pete. I'm so over the gum chewing and the rah-rah. And I'll be honest, like, I loved Pete when he first came to Seattle, and I think that his tenure expired like year 2, after the Super Bowl. I'm not a Pete Carroll guy. I don't know what Russ's future holds. I think this whole idea that everyone has of quarterbacks all going into their 40s now is a little over the top, especially with a guy who I think took a bit of a step back athletically this year in Russ. Didn't have the same juice in the legs, the same ability to escape the pocket. He looks like someone who's taken a couple too many Aaron Donald hits. That being said, I saw Daniel Jeremiah had a tweet one day, which was, would you trade Russell Wilson for the 3 first-round picks the Eagles have in this year's draft? And I was like, no. Why do I want those 3 picks for? Why would I want 3 first-round picks that aren't all, at the very top of a draft? Go look at historically year over year over year. You're kind of hoping to hit maybe 2 of those 3 and get starters. And what, you're going to get a DB and a linebacker, or a DB and a guard, and that's worth Russell Wilson? If I'm an Eagles fan, I'd be desperate to try to be making a trade like that, because, again, if we're talking about things that are wide open, I don't view the NFC as that daunting. And I think that all of a sudden you could end up with a Russell Wilson, and you're making a pretty scary run, especially in a division that includes, a bunch of pretty fraudulent teams that aren't very strong. So I would get it from an Eagle standpoint. I just think it's really hard as a football fan ever to trade a franchise quarterback, even one with Russ, who I totally acknowledge has likely taken a step back in his career, is older, is going to pivot. But if I'm a Seahawks fan and they decide to move him, I need to get a really certain high draft pick in a year that I like, or a team that's a disaster's pick in the future, something along those lines. Like, the idea of moving him for draft picks that could be in the 10 laters or the 20s is terrifying to me. So I just hope that it's in a place where there's at least an opportunity for him to come back, and it isn't a deal where they have to move him because he needs it. I also wonder too, quickly, if a little part of him saw what happened this year with the AFC playoffs and goes, careful what you wish for, man. It might be tough in the NFC West. The division might be tough with the Niners and the Rams, but overall the conference is clearly going to be much easier over the next half decade.
Yeah, you can make the argument that Wilson will be the best quarterback in that conference if Rodgers moves on.
Exactly.
He probably is, right? So
exactly, right? So I don't know where you really want to run to in the AFC potentially, where you feel like, oh man, what a better fit, what a better opportunity this is. If it's an NFC team, if the Buccaneers decided we're going to move a big trade in to get Russell Wilson and give up a bunch of future first round picks and have you basically be the Brady replacement, if I'm Russ, I go, oh, I'm interested in something like that. But people keep bringing up the Broncos always. They're like, the Broncos. I'm like, you want to go to a division with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, a conference that has Joe Burrow, a conference, that's just absolutely stacked with teams and quarterbacks right now. This is the whole Aaron Rodgers myth. It's like, Aaron, shut the fuck up and go play for the Packers, man. They've given you everything that you could have possibly asked for. And you're the guy who this year misses the open receivers underneath, right? You're the guy who scored no points against the Niners after the opening drive of a game. Quarterbacks should be desperate to try to escape to the NFC at this moment. So the idea that these guys want to leave and go to a different place I don't understand it whatsoever. Like, I really don't get it.
As a Bears fan, I'm hoping and praying that Rodgers decides to go to the AFC, but I agree. It would kind of be nuts. If he goes to the AFC, I think the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL would all be in the AFC.
Right. Why?
It's crazy to think about. But let's talk about the big game on Sunday. Is there one specific storyline that's kind of sticking out to you that you're going to be watching really closely?
So I think to me, it's the anointment of Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. And I know that's pretty basic, but it's not really a Super Bowl that's got a ton of compelling storylines. I think we've all agreed that the Bengals offensive line play is going to be a major concern here against Von Miller and against Aaron Donald. I'm not really sure how they're going to hold up, seeing as the Titans just, wrecked the game. And I think it's pretty similar in terms of an interior pass rusher like Jeffrey Simmons. You swap him out for Aaron Donald. I have a tough time seeing a scenario where it's not, interior pressure on Burrow, have to get the ball out, running game that maybe doesn't work. But if Burrow can somehow pull this off, if he can hang tough, take hits, keep them around in this game, I got to imagine if you're a Rams fan, you got to feel pretty sweaty if it gets into the fourth quarter and Joe Burrow's there within one score, because I think he is that dude. That being said, I also wonder if we just can't help ourselves with young quarterbacks. We get so excited. We did this last year. Mahomes is going to win more Super Bowls than Tom Brady. Tom Brady wins it, and we go, Tom Brady has 7 fucking Super Bowls. He's been to 10. Are you out of your mind? No one's ever passing that. Mahomes is going to be lucky if he gets 3 or 4. Oh my God, 3 or 4 would be amazing for Patrick Mahomes. You would take that in a heartbeat if you're a Chiefs fan. And I've sort of noticed the same thing with Burrow this year. That's a bit of a red flag for me, where it's the whole, is he the next one? Is he the top guy in the AFC? Is Burrow, Joe Cool, is he the dude? And I could see a little bit of last year's Super Bowl where the NFC team just has the far better defense. They break down the offensive line, and the young quarterback looks completely out of his depth against a vet who is geared up to be in a game like this. And so I'm interested the most in Burrow. I think it could go either way, but I'm also feeling like, didn't we just do this Super Bowl? Didn't we just have the whole, this quarterback is the next great one? And then we ended up at halftime going, I hope Dr. Dre is good. This game's over.
So I agree with your first statement that this Super Bowl kind of lacks cool storylines. I do think Joe Burrow is the biggest storyline in this one. He's kind of got that swagger. Like me and Eric talked, we both kind of got man crushes on the guy. Like he's just the coolest dude ever. He's got like the cool swag jacket, comes in like the quoting Drake after on the Instagram posts. Like just he's the man, and everyone's kind of falling in love with the guy. I do think there's one kind of really intriguing big picture storyline from the LA Rams side of things here that I do want to ask you about. This team has gone all in. Like they're the definition of all in. They don't got a first round draft pick, I believe, till 2025. The next 3 years, they don't have first round picks. Yep. What do you make of the way that they have built their team. Do you like this kind of let's play video game Madden style GM mode here, or do you think they might have gone overboard?
No, I love it. Honest to God, I don't like the Rams. I don't particularly like McVay. I don't like the fact that they don't really have fans. Yeah. It's hard. I always root for the fan base that cares. And you think that there's a lot of Rams fans out there that are going to be, completely heartbroken if they don't win the Super Bowl? No. Most of the people that are going to be there with Rams gear are going to be fancy, rich Hollywood types who wanted to take cool Instagram pictures. So I'm all the way riding with the Bengals here. But from a where we should care about sports standpoint, then the Rams model is the one for me. Again, yeah. I referenced the Blue Jays earlier, but I'm the same way where, okay, sick. You have an amazing farm system. You know what I think a farm system is for? Trading them away if your team is good. If you suck forever, keep them and roll them and do the whole cheapo thing. But I want to see teams be aggressive. I love it when teams believe in themselves, understand that flags fly forever, and don't try to do this myth of, sustainability and winning forever. The Patriots are a fluke. The Patriots thing is a total anomaly in sports. Even look at teams that have tons of money, like the New York Yankees. Where's all the banners? Where's all the Yankees championship? Look at the Dodgers. Where's all the Dodgers championships? Like, it's hard to win in sports, man. And if you have a chance to do it, then who gives a shit about where you're going to pick in the draft next year? People just love the draft. They love the idea of hope and prospects and what could be's, right? It gets back to the Burrow thing. Why is Burrow the most compelling? Yes, he's cool, but he also represents what could be, right? The next great thing, the next thing that you could be watching, the rise of something. So I just love it when teams are aggressive. And if the Rams win, the positive spin for the rest of the NFL, which is not having a compelling Super Bowl, not having a super compelling team win the thing, we'll be happy for Aaron Donald and Stafford, I guess, and Cooper Kupp, but who else really on that roster? Von Miller already won. We'll hope that teams use that model of, hey, if a quarterback becomes available and you're a quarterback away, trade first-round picks for that quarterback. Like, again, you're an Eagles fan or you're a Broncos fan or you're a team that thinks that they can win next year with somebody. Are you really going to hold back because first-round picks? Like, I can't believe that there's Eagles fans out there that wouldn't trade 3 first-round picks in this year's draft for Russell Wilson. Like, that's nuts to me. That's like truly.
I'm almost there, JD. I don't know if I'm there yet.
You're insane. You'd watch Russell Wilson one game throw one of his moonball deep passes, and you'd go, oh my God, we could have had a defensive back who's a rookie that took 3 years to get good. Like, it's a no-brainer.
The thing is the Eagles just don't have a great roster right now. They're getting older, so I do think they need to fuse the team.
But they have a really good offensive line.
They do. That's the big reason why I do think maybe going to get a Wilson or maybe Deshaun Watson, if that all figures itself out, that because Eagles offensive line is not getting any younger right now. They've got the kind of pieces set. So I do agree with you there. I do think that is a big part of it, but I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know.
I just think if you're an Eagles fan, I would go, all right, all of a sudden Dallas Goedert goes up in stock, right? Mm-hmm. You ended up drafting receivers in the first round back-to-back drafts. Or I think, what were they both first rounders? Or
yeah, I know Jalen Reagor and Devonta Smith, back-to-back. The Reagor pick was great pick that was, eh?
Yeah, I know. Well, I was going to say Reagor, I couldn't remember if he was a second-round pick, and he's been a bust, right? He's been terrible.
Definition of bust.
Yeah, awful, right? Like, even like almost as bad as who'd you guys take instead of
JJ Arcega-Whiteside, baby?
Yeah, Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah.
No, but all of a sudden those two guys look better. All of a sudden a Miles Sanders looks better out of the backfield with a guy like Russell Wilson. The team dynamic just changes. All of a sudden you have the best quarterback in your division by like a pretty wide margin. And you've seen this, like, you win your division and you get in the playoffs, who knows? Like, it's just like, I don't know. I would be willing to do that. And then you spend money, right? You spend some money on your defense. You spend a little bit of money in the secondary. You end up in the trade deadline, and who knows? Then you're there, and you might be doing even more aggressive things like trading other first-round picks or other prospects to build around a group like that. So I just think, like, when you have a chance to win in these leagues, you take them. And that fans are often far too concerned about what the future could be. And then guess what? You end up being like me, a Leafs fan who his entire life has been watching them never get. I haven't seen the Leafs get out of the first round since I was in high school.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in my like early.
What was that? 04, right? Carolina. Was that this year? Carolina won the cup. I was 8 years old.
Exactly. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't really get the whole, you don't want to just overpay first round picks and get nothing. I'm not saying go back to the old NBA where they had to make rules, the Stippian rule, where like you couldn't give up back-to-back first round picks because owners used to trade them like for bums.
Yeah.
But there has to be a little bit more urgency, I think, from fans. And you really let cheap owners get away with it when you say that you care about first round picks more than you care about winning. So yes, in some ways, go Rams from that standpoint of really all of a sudden having pressure on front offices across all sports to say, hey, if you've got talent, try to win with that talent. What are you waiting for?
I think it's great for the league too. I think it's great for sports when teams are aggressive, trade their assets, draft picks, younger players, and whatnot to go get guys that are established now. It's just better for the league, more exciting for the fan base. And in general, I think it's a better way than sitting on your assets and hoping they pan out. Just go get established guys. So I 100% agree with you.
I already forget the name of that prospect that the Jays traded for. We lost.
Yeah, we lost Eric. I was going to say he was frozen, so I didn't think we lost him. He's gone.
Lettering has left the meeting. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just I don't think anybody's going to care about what Barrios was traded for if Barrios is pitching the first or second game of a playoff series. I just really don't.
100% agree with you. All right, a couple more questions before we go, JD. Do you have a bet in mind yet? I know it's Monday. Do you have a prop bet? Let's say a totals bet, anything that's kind of caught your eye, of course, on coolbet.com.
Well, I hate this because I want to bet on the Bengals because my heart is Bengals. It's all the way Bengals. But I'm going to make this case throughout the entire week. Look how the Bengals got here. They got here with a close win against a crappy Raiders team that we all agree was just nothing special. Barely beat them. They needed 3 Ryan Tannehill interceptions and a 4th down turnover on downs. That was some of the worst play calling I've ever seen in order to not get it.
Yeah.
And a last second 50+ yard field goal to barely beat the Titans. Then they get Mahomes, who has one of the greatest choke jobs I've ever seen by a quarterback since I've been watching football, in order to beat them also by a walk-off field goal, versus the Rams, who absolutely buried the Cardinals. And I don't think the Cardinals were anything special, but that's what you use to identify who are good teams, is who wins in blowouts against bad teams. Buried the Cardinals. The Cardinals never even had a sniff. They ever had a moment. They needed 3 weird fumbles for the Buccaneers to get back in the football game, but that was a blowout. The right result was there. Like, we can mysticize Brady and say all the things about it. That had nothing to do with Brady. That had to do with the Rams having a essentially rookie running back come back from an injury really quick, and then putting the ball on the turf a couple times, and then Cooper Kupp, of all people, putting the ball on the ground one of the times. Absolute fluke. Really, that was a blowout win. So they blew out the Super Bowl defending champions. Then you get into a game against the Niners, and it's your boogeyman, who you have not been able to beat 6 times in a row, the coach that is in your brain. And not only do you win, but you come back and you hold them to 50 yards rushing. So you stop them from doing the things you want to do. Now you're facing a rookie quarterback, essentially, a guy who has not been in the playoffs before this year, a team full of guys who are thrilled to just be in the Super Bowl, and a head coach that comes from your head coach's tree. Like, he burnt this guy. I just don't see how this isn't a blowout. I honest to God don't.
You're taking Rams blowout.
I think the Rams are going to absolutely level them. I think that this is going to be like a multi-score win for the Rams. And maybe, like I said, I think it's going to be, oh my God, you're hoping that it's not a blowout at halftime so that everyone's not just like getting drunk in the kitchen and eating the chicken fingers and do it. Like, you gotta hope for
all the cold turnover. Buffalo chicken dip, that's cold.
Exactly. Exactly. I just don't see what the formula is for the Bengals to win other than bad turnovers by Stafford. And whenever you're going down that route, it's not the best.
I started, so like early last week, I was thinking I would go Bengals just because like my heart was there. And then the more I've been kind of thinking about it, kind of same process as you, more I've been thinking about it. I don't really see a pathway for the Bengals to win except for Matthew Stafford completely blowing it up. Right. Yeah. Like, and he kind of did start to do that towards the end of the season. And I think he had 8 interceptions in the last 4 games. He's played better in the playoffs. He looked really good against Tampa Bay. He was slinging the ball all over the field, hitting spots that Jared Goff couldn't hit, So I do think that the Rams are the better team. It just, I don't know if I'm fully ready to trust Stafford in this spot, but I do agree with you. It kind of does scream Rams blowout. Like, I do think the Bengals got super lucky. 9 sacks. If your Burrow's getting sacked 9 times, they're losing the game. Like, they can't win again if your quarterback gets sacked 9 times.
Yeah, again, to me, it's always so when I'm watching a basketball game and I do live betting, if I see one team is getting to their spots with more ease and the other team is hitting tough buckets, I love betting on the team that's getting their spots because I think that's going to normalize.
Yeah.
And in a football matchup like this one, I just think about, like, what are the game scripts? What are the ways that the Rams can win versus what are the ways that the Bengals can win? And everybody that's picking the Bengals keeps going like, Joe Burrow, man, he's just like magic. And you go, all right. So your path to victory is one guy has to be magic.
Yeah.
My path to victory is you got the better defensive line. You got the more mature team. You got Jalen Ramsey, who's going to be all over the field and potentially on Jamar Chase for a whole bunch of it. And even if he's not, like, one of the strengths of this Bengals team is that they have 3 pass catchers who can all make a play. Well, when you're facing the Ramsey team, you have 2 pass catchers who can make big plays. You have the better head coach, the more experienced and seasoned quarterback. You've got arguably the better weapon in the game in Cooper Kupp. You've got Odell Beckham Jr., who's turning it up right now. You've got the better offensive line. Like, find me the places where the Rams aren't better than the Bengals are right now. And so I go, if I lose this bet, fine, I can live with it, knowing that I am happy that the Bengals won and I won't care as much about the money. I do care about the money first. But B is that at least I picked the side that I can sleep at night with. If I pick the Bengals and they're starting to get shit kicked, I'm going to look at myself and go, what the fuck was I thinking betting the Bengals? Like, why was I on this team? What was exactly the reasoning? Like, even if you look at the field goal kicker, because I think that McPherson kid is nails.
Yeah.
Gay is a really good kicker as well. Like, I think that they have the better kicker, but not discernibly to the point where it's like the Titans game where Bullock is on the one side and I go, this could be a shaky thing. And it turned out to be. So I think the Rams are the team here. I think that they're the play. And if you can ever get a line that in part plays on people's emotions, I think you grab it. So I'm gonna grab the Rams. I'm gonna grab them on the money line and parlays. I'm probably gonna grab them on the spread in some bets. And then I don't know. I'll be happy to lose the money, I guess, because I love Bengals fans. I love Joe Burrow, and I love the idea of seeing Cincinnati celebrate the Super Bowl. Like, if they got that win, that would – who's not going to feel good about that?
Yeah.
Again, not even Rams fans because they don't exist.
So that is JD Bunkis, morning host for Sportsnet on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, also ambassador for coolbet.com. JD, before you go, why don't you plug in anything you want the listeners to take a look at?
Yeah, just follow the show. Subscribe on iTunes. The same things you do. Follow on Spotify. Do all that stuff. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, both at JD Bunkis. I'll be posting stuff there, bets, picks, all kinds of different stuff, especially the things I do with Coolbet. So that's it. Those 2 things, the socials and the show.
JD, thanks for stopping by. Let's do it soon.
Hey, man, this was great. Thanks for having me.